Hello, welcome after the lunch break. My name is Maria Błędowska from Krakow Technology Park. Before we start our panel, I would like to share some information. As you may know, we have a mobile application, Digital Dragons 2017, where you can vote and rate the speaker's performance. Please do it and give us the feedback. If you want to use the Wi-Fi, the password is the best event. On the second floor, you can see the project taking part in Digital Dragons in the showcase. At 5:30 p.m. on the ground level, we will have the award ceremony. The award ceremony is powered by Warming Labs. And that's all for now. Let's start. Hello, we welcome Wojciech Pazdur from the Farm 51.
Hey everyone, it's funny because I see about half of the people here are or were working with me, so I guess you came here more to make fun out of me than to listen to what I have to say about the 3D art production and pipeline. But seriously speaking, actually I plan to make this presentation a bit fun because there is nothing more annoying than planning the art production pipeline for the video game project, or nothing more annoying than trying to keep it, let's say, in frames during the production. So actually the title of my lecture is 3D art production pipeline, win or fail. Unfortunately, I don't know what to say much about how to make a winning art production pipeline, because I don't feel personally like I was involved into many of the projects that had really great planned, managed, and structured art production pipeline. However, I was running and working on many projects that had at least a bit failed art production pipeline, so I can share a bit about this, and hopefully this is about exercise of learning, like knowing about the possible fails, we can probably make it better with every next project. This is how at least I feel we are doing it at the Farm 51. Like, it's far from perfection, but with every project we are a bit closer to what I believe it should be. And hopefully, maybe one day in the next 30 years, we'll be also doing a great art production pipelines for ourselves that will be perfect. Today, it's just like we are learning from what went wrong, what went well in our project, and I will try to say a bit about this. So first, a few words about me, not just because I want to promote myself, but more about to tell you that I was involved for planning different 3D art production tasks, pipelines, or operations for most of my life. Today I'm more like chief of the studio, I run the whole project, but my origins were 3D artist, let's say more technical 3D artist. For a short time I was a 3D programmer, but it was very short. I was a bit too, let's say, chaotic to be a good programmer. And for the art, it was better to make all these iterations, trying this. So it was more for me. So even when I studied the programming, and I was originally planning to be 3D programmer, I moved to the creation of 3D graphics, and I spent most of my professional work on this. So first of all, I was editor-in-chief of 3D Magazine, the printed magazine that is not coming out for like, I don't know, 12 years. The last issue, I guess, was released in 2004. It was at the time when there was, you cannot believe this, but there was more knowledge in the books and in the magazine than in the internet. I know today it sounds crazy, but 15 years ago, the most popular way to learn how to make a computer graphics was to learn a book or to learn a magazine. So I was editor-in-chief of this kind of magazine, and I was working with artists, with the producers, with the writers, with the teachers about different aspects of making 3D graphics. Then I was working on Helion Publishing House, like I was translating, correcting, maybe even writing a bit some books about 3D art, especially on making the 3D models and textures in the programs like Maya and 3D Studio. And in the meantime, because I moved to the art mostly to make a game, so I started to work on video games. So my first work in video game industry was a company called X-Ray Interactive. Unfortunately, this company collapsed so long ago that I didn't find their logo. So I just had some picture from one of the games that also was cancelled and never released, but it was my first job in the video game industry in 2000, in 99, 2000. Then I worked at People Can Fly in Warsaw on the first Painkiller game and a couple of other titles that was not released later on. And in the meantime, I was making lecture on 3D graphics and art, let's say, development in the couple of technical universities. And today, I'm working at the Farm 51, running the projects of games, and specifically and personally, I try to be involved as much into the art production, including also, let's say, non-very popular art production techniques like 3D scanning or 360 shooting. But let's move from the self-promotion to the project itself. Just to let you know, the recent projects me and my team have been working on is Get Even. This is a game that is going to be released this week on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Chernobyl VR project, which is a kind of unique VR documentary combining the 3D graphics and 360 movies, and next unannounced project that will be a game set in the Chernobyl environment as well. And I guess I need to switch off something on my laptop because there is some shitty calendar reminder. Okay. What connects these projects, they are also quite atypical on the art production pipelines. I would not talk much about this. I'm just saying that I always try to find a good solution how to make a 3D art production pipeline working well. And I cannot say I won fully at any of these projects, but I guess every of these projects, for example, had some specific, sorry, I guess I need to cut from internet. That will be the easiest way. I don't know how to do this. Sorry. Give me a second. Okay, we are back to the business, I hope. So, why I believe this subject is important, not just how to make a great looking art, but how to make a good working 3D art production pipeline. Well, first of all, making 3D art is actually the most expensive part of any video game development. If it's a 3D, then usually making 3D art is the parts that cost most. Like the biggest amount of people or the biggest amount of task is related to create the 3D art, simply. Not in every kind of project, but unless you will find a really specific art style that doesn't require doing some smart or procedural generated content, then usually you will spend the most of your time as a total team, or most of your manwork, or most of your money, however you count it, you will spend it on art production. And then, depending on how well structured is your art production, or how well you run the process of art production, then you may win or fail in business level, in quality levels, in reviews levels, in every possible aspect. And if you are an artist, and most of you probably are interested in creating art, then you can also feel personally bad if your project went wrong because of the bad art production pipeline. So, what should be the pipeline? Pipeline should be the system that allows you to work smoothly on your content generation. Like you got different elements like art direction, art style, demands from design, your team, the tools you are using. Everything creates a kind of system that should look well, but not just from outside. It also should work well. It should deliver the proper content. It should deliver everything you need or everything what is needed for the game. So ideally, the pipeline is great looking system of different elements that are connected together, and they are moving data, processes, visions, and so on from one point to the other point, and everything works like a great mechanism. But usually it's a bit more like this. Like you still got pipes, but you also have holes, and these pipes doesn't connect really. So usually, no matter how well you planned your pipeline originally, then usually you will find some holes in the loop, and usually it's not working perfectly. So by these holes, you are is the problem with the projector, because it's something flashing, maybe cable. You see, I was an artist, I'm sensitive on this. Okay, I don't know if you can fix it, but whatever. Hopefully you will not get VR dizziness. So the idea is to make the system more like this than like this, and no matter what you do, no matter how well you plan your system, the holes will always appear. So the key, let's say, way to proceed with planning your art production is not actually, in my opinion, how great is the initial assumption, but how well are you able to execute it, or how great are you on fixing the holes. Because holes will appear anyway. There is no system that works smoothly. I specifically not try to right now to present you how are different kind of pipelines for the 3D art production, because if you Google it, you will see a lot of table like this that will show you that first you should this, then you should this, then you should this, then everything works well. So no, never works well. And what I try to say today is what usually is not working well, and hopefully at least give you some answers why it's not working well and what to do then. Because ultimately, if you won't fill the holes, then your pipeline will look more like this, and then you will be distinguishing the fire by most of the project, not focusing that much on making the really great game that you usually want to make, but on fixing the problems that are overwhelming you, and they are damaging the game, that are damaging business, they are damaging your vision and everything else. So I was for a very long time trying to find a systemic solution for the 3D art pipelines, and there was always one thing that was usually missing in description of the possible 3D pipelines that you should create. So what do you think? What is always the best element of your pipeline, of any pipeline? Any ideas? I hear planning, okay. Any other ideas? In my opinion, it's always an artist. Because you need to plan, I fully agree. Management is basically the essence of the pipeline itself. But if you have the best possible plan, the best possible pipeline, as you name it, if you don't have a good artist, then you fail. Then you will have holes in your loop, or you will have fires in your loop. So actually, today I'm trying to think that to make a pipeline, I need first to know my team. I need to first to understand what my team is capable of. And this is a bit derivative in the opposite direction that normally people would do, because normally people would do, I will have system, I will have game, I will have art vision, I will get people, I will make the project done. Of course, it's nothing wrong, but when you go to the detailed planning of your art pipeline, if you don't consider this human factor that your people will be capable of doing this, but not capable of doing this, if you don't understand them, if you don't know their limitation or their skills or their great points or their weak points, then your pipeline will not work. So actually, there is also the other answer. What could be the worst element of your pipeline? Actually, also it could be a human, because if you take the artist that is first doesn't care about the reference, second is doesn't care about what tool he is used, or maybe he cares about his tools, but he is not using the proper tool to make this art, and he is not basically involved into what is most important for the project. He is just playing the artist, then it may end wrong for you. So I'm not making joke on artists right now that much. I'm just saying that if you don't care about what people are capable of or what they will do during the production, then your pipeline actually will be broken. And then we are moving to the, let's say, more, maybe not technical, but more important fact that most of the artists want to have clear vision, a clear reference what they are having to do, but sometimes the level of detail or amount of detail you are providing them through the documentation, through the concept art, through the reference photos is not enough to make it clear that the game will look like this. Of course, you may have a great painters, you may have a great concept artist, or you can have simply great photo reference for everything. But what is more important is that throughout the whole process, all the time, you need to repetitively check if people are following this. Because sometimes they are not following this because they believe they will do better. Sometimes they are not following the references or concepts because they don't understand what is actually the most important part of, or what is the key difference between this stylized building on concept art or between this realistic building on the photo. Sometimes they believe that you are giving them this, but you expect this. And there is a lot of things that may go wrong if you don't keep repetitive check on if the project is following the art direction. So it's not try to attempt giving you answer what is better, concept art or reference photo. It's just like no matter what you use for creating your art, you may fail at some point and you may be not matching your expectation, your art style, your identity of the project. And what is the key conclusion from this here? Most of the people believe that you need to do this on the beginning of the project and when the new demands appear, like, okay, I have some art concept or art Bible on the beginning of the project, then in the middle of the project there will be need for next item, next asset, so we'll make a next concept art. So no, all the time throughout the whole project, you need to be in loop, in communication loop with everybody in the team to make sure that they are doing everything what's needed, because if you expect this and they will do this, then probably you will be pushed to make the art assets from the very beginning, from the scratch, and you will lose a lot of time or money. Of course, you can also have mix of different kind of art style, of different kind of assets, like having a photo mix with some photogrammetry scan, with some picture, with anything else. Today, I just wanted to say that depending on your art style, depending on your project, it's not the most important thing if you take the reference photo, if you take the work of the other artists, if you take the concept art, or if you take mix of different kind of things. It's just like if you select your style, you need to all the time be checking for the consistency of the art style, even if you believe that you are making a realistic game and the assets you are making are realistic, but if they don't fit each other, if they fit the exact reference, then, and this is most important, you will be fighting between the artists, or there will be fighting between art direction and artist about if this should be more like this or this should be more like this. So the best things is to define at the beginning of the project that something has to look exactly like this or exactly like this, and then hopefully not to go that much into this discussion if it's possible to switch from this to this during the production, because then you can be wasted. Then another part of important, let's say, work on the 3D art production pipeline is how you use the white box. I guess most of you know what is the white box. White box is the construction of the game world that is being used by part of the development when you don't have your art created. Like most of the time, you start the work of the conceptual location or characters or vehicles, everything in your game, not knowing exactly what will be their look or what will be their function. Or you simply don't have the assets to make the game. But you need to make the playable prototypes, you need to give level designers something to work on, you need to give the programming team something or work. So usually they use very simple constructs called white box, meaning they are placeholder objects that are very simple, that gives you different function, like they are stairs, they are barrels, they are mountains, and you are using them inside the game world before they are being replaced with the final assets that will be delivered by the graphics. Or sometimes, often they are allowing you to define what will be the final assets. For example, what will be shape of this hole in the ground before artists are able to create this. So in the ideal situation, you made the game out of white boxes and the art team can work independently of the level design team. Finally, they will get the white boxes and they will give you the assets that will replace the white boxes with the final look of the art. So unfortunately, I have never seen the projects that would go from point A to point B without any problems, mostly because artists and level designers and programmers sooner or later will get into some kind of conflict. And I'm not even saying this is the conflict of characters, like I like this or I like this. It's usually programmers may have requirement to limit number of triangles or to make simplistic shapes of the objects because of the physics or something else. Artists have demands to create very unique and beautiful looking landscape that is not matching programmers' expectation. Level designers from time to time change their prototypes because they see the gameplay is not working well, so they need to move these stairs from here to here or to remove the stairs or replace them with the airplane or something else. And then the issue is to not believe, that's the most important thing, not believe that white box scenario is the perfect solution and you just need to fix something and then you'll be fine. Actually, you need to be prepared that white box solution is never working perfectly and you need to communicate, meaning you need to have a great team that will be working not just between themselves, like they are the artists, but they will also try to understand demands from the programmers, demands from the level designers, but sometimes fight with them because sometimes they need to deliver the final quality and final look of the game. So actually, if the game would be created by the programmers, that probably it will always look like this because it's the simple, it's boxed, it's easy to optimize, and it works perfectly in 100 frames even of the smartphone. So it's easy to imagine that from one point of view, the game could look like this. From the art point of view, the game should be something totally different. And we need to always balance what is the demand between the simplicity or between the functionality and between the art fidelity. And it's never easy to do it. This is why the game tends to be iterative, and that's why we need to fight so much during making the games. And then we got the team of artists that usually make the 3D models, like the characters, like the boxes, like the wooden boxes, like the barrels, you all know them, that are being replacing these assets from the white box with the actual good or medium or bad looking meshes depending on the skills. And then you are trying to composite your game with, let's say, these elements of pipeline. Like first you got the art direction, concept art, the vision, the input of creativity that you would like to achieve. Then you are making some assets and some white boxes. Usually it goes parallelly because usually the artist cannot wait that long until this phase is finished, at least in the indie studios, because in the big production teams, there is sometimes the pipeline that makes all the game based on the white box, and the artists are not making art until the white boxes are finally confirmed with the gameplay, with the design, with everything. But This is mostly for bigger companies, and if we are not working in the biggest companies, usually we are actually adjusting everything on fly, like concept art, because of different technical or artistic parameters, has to be adjusted during the production. Models has to be created and adjusted during the production, and the white boxes or level design or whatever the game content is inside the game engine, it also has to be, let's say, adjusted or developed during the whole game. So the idea is that if you connect everything together, like the vision, the assets, the white boxes, you will get the proper game in the ideal situation. And usually you get a bit more like this, at least in the first scenario. Like nothing is really right. So let's say from the artistic perspective, you basically had something what was your reference. You basically have some mesh or white box, you try to transport this to this, but it's not working. It's simply not working. You may imagine that this artist probably wanted to make a bit better looking character. Maybe it was a joke, I don't know. However, during game development, you often are in the situation like this. Like you wanted this, and you are getting this, and it doesn't have because of the artist. It can be because of the different things that went wrong during the production. So first of all, you don't understand the vision, so you are doing it differently, sometimes like this. Or you don't have skills, so you are doing it not properly. Or maybe you are using not the good skill, not the good tool. I'm not sure about if this tool is good to make this kind of flying horse, but anyway, close enough is usually not enough. In the game today, with the demands about the art fidelity, about the quality, looking by how great are games today, even small indie games, you simply are not usually allowed to go close enough. You need to be very close, or you need to be perfect to work it out. So what are usually the biggest problems with reaching this goal? First is separation inside the team. Like, it's not just separation between programmers and artists and level designers or whatever can be other sub-team. But natural tendency is that programmers and artists and level designers have some, let's say, trend to be separated from each other. Usually they sit in the different room, or maybe they sit in the different desk group, or they simply understand each other. Like programmer understands programmer, but programmer doesn't understand artist, and opposite direction. So the issue is that in reality, this lack communication, like lack of exchanging knowledge, lack of understanding problems of each other, is more like this. Like you got your kit, that is your beloved game, you would like to make this kit to be someone's great, but because of your separation, your kid is suffering and your game is suffering because you are not able to communicate with each other. And I can honestly say 60 or 70% of problems during any art production pipeline is related this way or another to communication. You can save 30 or 40% of the other things for the other stuff, from which the biggest will be the management. But I would today say that with good communication, you can fix the bad management, or with good communication, you can often fix the bad initial assumption. Of course, if management is really bad, I will talk on this a bit later, then it can harm everything. But regardless of what could be the management, if management doesn't care about communication, if the communication is not working well, then you will harm your kit. The other issue is derailing. This is how I call it. Like, every one of us has tendency to do something on our own way. Like, I prefer dirty walls in this room, so I make these walls a bit more dirty. I prefer to use ZBrush instead of Photoscan. I prefer to use Photoshop instead of whatever else. And it can be on the tool level, it can be on the artistic vision level, it can be at I don't like your vision level. At every level, derailing is something what I call like we expect this, but because of different humans' decision in this case. It's more about decision. You are getting this because someone thought, no, he's so serious, he's so stiffy, let's make him funny. And that could be the decision that led to this. I don't know, but this is one of the ideas that in different games, when we try to be funny, some of the people try to be very serious. Like when we were making Deadfall Adventures, that was generally a comedy, that most of the people were trying to be very serious, very stiffy in both story, art direction, everything. And it generated a lot of problems. At Get Even, at the other side, we are trying to be very serious, but many people, including the designers, including the artists, were trying to make jokes inside the game. I'm not saying it's always bad, but I'm saying that derailing can, at the worst case, lead to that you are getting a very different project than you were expecting, and it can be harmful for the project vision itself, because if one artist is doing this kind of project and other artist is believing that he's doing something else, one is doing serious projects, other is doing comedy project, then they can be delayed and they may harm the project. The other thing is motivation, like people need to believe in what they are doing. And this is a very hard subject because artists like to be the free spirits. Artists like to feel that they are doing their vision, someone is always supporting them, someone is giving them good condition to make this vision, and they can feel good with their work, which is generally hard. So I'm not saying even about the external condition, like company can be in hard situation, the project can be in hard situation because of the delays or because of relation with the publishers or because of internal organization problem. I'm just saying that because of work of artists is usually very hard, so the level of motivation during the process of making game is usually decreasing. This is the wave, like on the beginning, the motivation is usually rising because this is the new project, we'll make something cool, I can finally do maybe something better than I did on the last project, or I will get new skills, or I will get better salary, or whatever else. And then, because the project is progressing and the work is hard and annoying, the level of motivation decreases. And finally, at the end of the project, especially if you got this famous crunch time, or if you are simply seeing that some of your assets are being thrown away from the project because they were not fitting the quality or they were not longer needed for the project, then the level of motivation decreases. And actually, there is not easy solution how to make the motivation work in the team. But you should never forget that it's an important subject and you need to care about this, even if it's very hard and even if it's not possible to fulfill everyone's expectation. What is the other problem? That you cannot make everyone happy in your team, because if project is going this direction and someone would prefer other direction on the art or production or whatever else, so you unfortunately cannot make everyone happy. And of course, let's say the last but not least, but almost the most important, almost as important as the human factor, is the management. By management, I generally mean running the process, like planning, like executing, like quality control, and so on. And in the art production pipeline, the management is very important, but as important as management is the reaction to the problems that appears. Because by the general assumption, it's easy to make a plan for art to the game. It's relatively easy. You can create a list of the assets, you can create the concept or references. It's actually planning the art production is the easiest part, I would say. I mean theoretical planning, like write what you need for the project, make a list of the objects, textures. It's hard work to do, but the problem is that during the game development, you need to manage this process because some assets becomes unnecessary, some of the assets or some of the objects or some of the elements of the game are evolving, some of them has to be thrown away. And sometimes you don't really know what you need. Sometimes you need to leave the empty gap in your plan because you know that you will need this scene or this idea of location, but you don't really know what this location really is. So there is a rule that I learned from one very experienced producer long time ago, that looking from the art production perspective, every poorly managed project tends to be a production of random assets. This is what you usually get if you don't manage the project well. Like you will get collection of random assets that are, some of them are bad quality, some of them are not needed for anything, some of them are good, but they are just random, and this is the source of conflict because the artists are losing their motivation because they work hard, they produce these assets, but they are neither not used in the game, or they are not necessary, or they are bad quality and will be thrown away. So it's very important, of course, to manage the projects. Then there is a lot of discussion about if artists should have a lot of meetings and discussion between them or not. I cannot say today how much of communication should be done through meeting and how much of communication should be done by direct discussion. I believe you need both of them. Like you need, from time to time, you need to meet all the team together to exchange some problems, ideas, discussion, and so on, but you should not overuse it. Like you should not plan that every day or every week you will have a big meetings when everybody will be discussing everything, because then you will usually lose your time, and then people will be fighting against their vision and their ideas and their problems, and they won't be focusing that much of resolving these problems, like on the trying to push their vision. But of course, you should never underestimate the significance of the meeting. Like, for example, right now on the next project, we are trying to do the weekly review of the art, which I'm not sure it's the best timing option for reviewing the art in the project, but at least you should plan it in your pipeline, and you should include it in your timing scenario that people will spend some time on meeting or discussion. But again, last but not least, lack of the skill is also the issue. You should give your people time to learn the skills they are missing, or you should get the people that have enough skill to do different tasks. Because actually many things in the many games are looking bad, not because of the bad management, not because of the bad motivation or something. There are simply people who doesn't fully understand the role of the color, the role of the shape, the role of the different tools using during art production. So here the just advice is that you should spend time on checking your team regarding the skills, and if it's needed to help people get these skills, and if they are not getting these skills, then maybe look for the other people that can do this. And another problem is that we today have very high demands, because what was enough 20 years ago is totally not enough today. And most of the artists would do model like this. Today, actually, probably every 3D artist would do model like this. But almost none of the artists today is fully capable to do the whole model like this, with except of some very skilled character artists. So the roles of the character artists and environment artists and prop artists and other artists are totally shifting and changing, and the demands are increasing. So actually, the problem with your art production pipeline can be also that you are expecting too much from your team capability, or from amount of people you got, or from your team skills. So what to do? Again, first of all, you need to make your vision clean. You need to evangelize all the time what you are doing to your team. You need to make your art direction clean, and you need to communicate all the time, not just on the beginning of the project. You need to have good scenario for checking the quality of the assets and the parameters that you are demanding. How many poly count, how many faces, what are the texture, what are the optimization parameters, what is the sharpness of the assets, what is the color palette, and so on. You need to do it from the very beginning, because otherwise your project will be suffering. Take no prisoners. I mean by this, there should be no relief on the quality. If your quality bar is set like this, not like this, then you should, unfortunately, since the beginning, be expecting this quality, because if you believe that you start from this and you will end with this, then you are totally wrong. So no, I'm not saying this is bad. For some games, this can be a good quality, but if you are expecting this quality, you need to execute it from the very beginning. From the very first models, you need to be on this quality level. You need to motivate your team. You need to convince people that they are doing a good job. You need to teach and learn, like first, transfer your knowledge or help the people to get knowledge from the sources that are available today. There is a lot of sources, but also demands for the quality and skills are high. But you also need to learn and analyze your mistakes to make a, let's say, better decision about the process in the future, because as they said, good decision comes from experience, but experience comes from bad decisions. So this is what this lecture was about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for maybe 3 questions from audience who would like to start and ask some question.
Yeah, I was overwhelming to all of you. Really, no question? Okay, anyway, I'm here, so if you got any question after the lecture, I will be available. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.